You really have to commit to every step of the dive. Otherwise, you're going to be seriously injured. I've had a few friends that have had accidents, and honestly, I was in tears just watching them. You're hitting the water super fast. You're taking 10 Gs, which is the same amount of force as Formula One drivers.
It's 10 Gs.
I just stepped away from the platform and I was like screaming. I had a full-on like panic attack on the platform.
Welcome to the Team Ignition Show. When I was a kid, my parents, in order to think that they were clever, used to hit me with big life lesson questions, such as, would you follow your friends off a cliff? Today's guest, Morgane Herculano, she would have answered to her parents, yes, because that is what she does for a living. She literally jumps off of cliffs as a professional high diver. 23-time national champion on the Swiss diving team, European best diver of the year, also an Ivy League, Harvard graduate. I mean, what don't you do?
A lot of things. A lot of things. I don't play music, but to go back to your point on jumping off cliffs, I'm actually the kid who jumps off the cliff first.
Right.
Yeah. And then gets everybody else to jump, but hopefully safe cliffs.
We are in Miami. This is where you train. We are outside, like literally in the middle of picturesque, a little bit stormy Miami, but it's really nice to be here. How long have you been training here?
So I'm doing all of my off-season here. I've been here for a few months now, gearing up towards the World Cup.
How would you explain high diving to someone who knows nothing about it?
So it is very different from free diving, which is diving underwater. It is what you see on TV at the Olympics, but higher. So we do flips and tricks off a 20-meter diving board in a pool, but it could also be in a natural location. It could be off a cliff. It could be in a river. It could be in an ocean. It could be in the wave. And what I would say is that it's a lot of fun.
And sometimes they literally like build platforms in the middle of natural settings, right?
Correct. Yeah, correct. I mean, it could be all over the world. It never stops to surprise me, honestly, the kind of locations that we go to. But we've built platforms off bridges, of cliffs in the Philippines. Yeah, it's a real privilege to be able to dive off these natural locations.
And the judging, what's the judging criteria?
So you do 4 dives in the competition, and the judges will score your dive based on execution only. So how well did you do your jump? How proper does it look? The positions in the air, etc. And then you multiply that by the coefficient of difficulty, and that is a degree of difficulty that is based off how difficult your dive was.
I would say that the degree of difficulty just being 20 meters in the air and then having to jump off of a stable platform or cliff and then travel at 85 kilometers an hour towards the water that if you hit it the wrong way will be like hitting the ground. Like, that's difficult enough.
Yeah, that's difficult enough. But now you could do 1 flip, 2 flip, 3 flips. So it depends. I think you'll do 3 flips tomorrow. You'll get extra points.
How did you grow up, first of all? Because I'm curious how you would have got to diving. You grew up in Switzerland.
Correct. I grew up in Geneva, Switzerland. Very ordinary family. And I started going to the public pool actually as a kid. And I loved going there, loved learning how to do a backflip. And then I saw the team, the actual like Olympic team train, the club team train. And I was like, oh, that sounds like a fun sport to do. But I was very active. I liked skateboarding. I liked all kinds of sports. So it just made sense to me.
But you see people training at the pool.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah, but just for fun. I mean, I only started for fun, and then got, better and better with time. I entered the national team like pretty quickly as a kid. Obviously, like there's not that many people in Switzerland, so it's probably easier to enter the national team in Switzerland than in the US.
You still have to be good.
I mean, you still have to like it and train, and definitely you still have to be good and motivated. But I think I always had that determination of like getting better each day.
How old were you when you started?
I was 11 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's considered a little bit late for diving because it's a very artistic sport. So if you think of artistic gymnastics, for instance, kids start really, really young, like 6, 7 years old, and diving like right after that. So I barely made it into the competition group because they were saying I was a little old.
Oh, she's an adult.
Yeah, literally, she's a little old. Not sure if she's gonna make it.
Were your parents supportive?
Yeah, I mean, I think my parents were always supportive of sports and doing sports as lifestyle, to spend your energy, especially as a kid, it's really important. And finding things that you love is very important. Sometimes they say like we preferred you to go in a controlled environment with a coach and a team than jump off cliffs with your buddies, right?
But somehow that's what actually ended up happening.
Yeah, exactly. With 15 years of training.
Yeah. All right, so you get into diving. You're this excited 11-year-old girl. When did it click in for you that, like, no, I actually want to do this?
Honestly, never. I'm going to say, like, it was always, I enjoyed doing it, and so I saw no reason to stop. I also didn't come from a family of, like, elite athletes or, like, Olympians or anything. So for me, it was like, I do this sport, I enjoy it, I'm getting better every day. I'm going to keep doing it, and I'm going to keep focusing on like that next competition, like it could be like junior Europeans, it was junior nationals, it was like getting to the next step of that little like junior career. So it never really clicked that I was like, oh, this is my like passion forever and I'm going to stay in this. And I think also part of it is cultural. In Switzerland, we grow up being told that being a professional athlete is not a real job.
Really?
Especially diving, like it's so niche, like who is becoming a professional diver? Like it never happens. So I think there was a little bit of that culture of like, you got to go to school and you got to do things properly and you got to go to university. And the other part of me was just like, I just didn't think that I would be capable of doing that. So even the Olympics were like, it was never a dream because I never thought I would even get to a point where I would be close enough to call that a real goal.
It's like do the thing, acquire some data, and then make your decisions based off of that.
Exactly. And the following year, if you still like it, you continue. And if you still feel like you have potential, because of course I think most people like what they're good at. And so if you're good at something, then you want to continue naturally, even if it's hard, even if, training 25 hours a week as a 14-year-old is like really intense. But if you see that you have that little bit of a next step ahead of you, then it pushes you to keep going. Or at least that's how my brain works.
Yeah. What type of sort of techniques and skills are you developing to progress professionally? And you're starting off on the springboard, yes?
Correct,
okay.
Yes. I was a springboard specialist, which is the 1 and the 3 meter. And it's funny because I started wanting to learn new things and wanting to like look cool and do all these cool tricks. But actually the day-to-day activity of being a diver is just like very boring, repetitive maneuvers. You go on the small diving board, you do a basic dive, and you're just trying to progress that like millimeter in your like position of your arms, position of your head, like the technique. It's very artistic also. So think of like the rigor of ballet. We did ballet as part of training, of artistic gymnastics. So it's very precise and rigorous. So a lot of the training is just like a gymnast doing flips, doing like dives and then getting feedback from your coach.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how much you're trying to not just execute a maneuver in the air, control yourself, but also have it be aesthetically pleasing
Correct.
to anyone who's watching, whilst also navigating safety, not hitting the board, not hitting the platform, and then this precise entrance into the water.
Yeah, exactly. And navigating also your own feelings and your own, your self-awareness in the air, your own fear. You might get like mental blocks. You might think you're doing something, but are you really? Then you watch the video and it doesn't look the way it felt. So because it's so fast, it's really just like 2-second dives. It can be really tricky to, match what you want your body to do and what you're actually doing.
You progressed, you start doing really well to the point where, at what point does the national team start looking at you?
Yeah. So that I was like about 13 years old. And then very quickly I went on to do like the junior international circuit. And that went on until I was 18. And then I was like, maybe I want to go abroad. And that's when I decided to come to the States.
Why come to the U.S.? You're a big deal at home. What was drawing you to America?
I think the feeling that I had done it there, like I was training in a pretty small facility, in a pretty like terrible facility to be quite straightforward for the level that I wanted to be at. But also I wanted to study abroad. I wanted to study in English, and I saw the U.S. as an opportunity to combine sport and academics.
You clearly love learning as much as you enjoy performing athletically, because you ended up at Harvard.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it's like similar to the diving thing. I never thought. It's neither of my parents went to university. I'm a first generation.
So first generation world-class athlete and first generation going to college.
But it was like step by step. Like I knew I did well in school. I knew I wanted a university that was at least as good as what we had in Switzerland. And so then I started reaching out to like massively to schools in the US. I sent like 50 emails to different schools, going from Hawaii to Texas to even Ivy League was kind of a joke, to be honest. Like I was like, oh, I'll just send an email and see what's up. So I think it's like I never put any boundaries on myself, but I also never put any expectation that there was a minimum standard for me to reach. It was more so, I will feel where I'm meant to go, right?
I love that, like, don't limit yourself.
Yeah.
Also don't have expectations that are low. Put yourself out there, believe, and then dance with what you're given. That's a great life lesson.
And I think in some ways, for me, at least, sport made me better in school and school made me better in sports, and they complemented each other. And I think today they both help me in my career and in business and in things like that, because it's like the same kind of mindset. And also it helps me to, stay grounded and stay happy and trying to stay myself as much as possible.
When you got into Harvard, did you know that you were going to be able to dive for them?
Yes.
That's awesome.
So it's part of like the recruiting process. And it was definitely my goal to dive in college. And that was a really fun experience. It's a very different mindset in the US. It's all about the team. Even the first value of the team was like team comes first. And I was just like, I don't really know about anything about teamwork, I just knew it was always about myself. It was always about my own progression. So it definitely helped me to like expand a little bit my skills as an athlete.
That's awesome. And academically, what was your focus?
So I studied economics. And at Harvard, it's very interesting because I think in many schools in the US, you get a lot of advantages from being an athlete. You get special tutors, you get special classes and stuff like that. At Harvard, they really make you do all the classes and all the requirements, and you don't really have special advantages being an athlete. And that's also what I liked, actually. It made it hard, but it's what I liked about it.
So you have this collegiate experience, you graduate. I don't know much about diving, but I imagine that making it actually a career that you're going to live on past, national team endeavors or collegiate endeavors, the pot must get much smaller.
Yes, definitely. First of all, it's not like at the career office at Harvard when I said like, oh, maybe I'll be a cliff diver. They were like maximizing my chances of getting a high earning
economic degree cliff diver.
Exactly. It was I never knew, I want to be a cliff diver when I graduate. It was more so I graduated and I took a full-time research job at the business school. So I was studying entrepreneurship, and then in the meantime, I converted from the regular diving to the cliff diving.
What in the world made you go from like the relative safety and stability of springboard diving, and I imagine you're starting to do a little bit of platform, but it's not giant platform work, to being like, oh, I should go take this off of a building? Yeah, again,
step by step.
To you?
Step by step, but there's one thing I would say, if there's one event that happened, was that in 2022, the Red Bull Cliff Diving World Series came to Switzerland, and they did a documentary on the history of cliff diving in Switzerland, which you might not expect that, but actually the history of cliff diving in Switzerland is pretty expensive, and the first ever like world events were in Switzerland.
What?
Yeah, in Ticino, so in the
no one had told you.
Exactly, even though it's like a landlocked country. I knew that it was happening, but I just didn't know that that the history was that big, and they had actually groups training there for forever.
On the lake.
Yeah, exactly, on the lakes, on rivers. So imagine, like, as you saw in the train, like the cliffs into the lake and the rivers. And they had a lot of groups and they had a lot of Swiss cliff divers, but they had never had a woman. And so it's not like I woke up one day and I was like, oh, I want to be that woman, but it was more so, I wonder why, and it like triggered some reflection on my end of like, why is it that there were so many people doing it and never a woman, even though we had, very competent women in Switzerland that could have become a cliff diver. And I think there's like partly like some culture around extreme sports, some culture on the Swiss side. And I was like, maybe I could be that girl that changes it. So that could be a fun, beyond my own experience, just a fun path to follow.
But then going and experiencing it for the first time, it must have felt different.
It's a different sport. It's like if you're comparing, track and field and marathon running. Yeah, you're putting one foot in front of the other.
They're both
you're
running.
But it's like very different approaches and trainings and techniques. And so I really worked hard every day to accommodate that technique. So the big difference is, for instance, in springboard diving, you land head first. It's like this. Exactly. Right. And in cliff diving, you can only land feet first. So I had to learn how to land feet first. But the way you work is kind of the same in that you go to the pool, you do a rep, you get feedback from your coach. You go to the pool, you do a rep, you get feedback from your coach. So it's just a lot of technical work.
For the first time, I imagine you're encountering a new kind of fear.
Yeah, definitely.
Than you were in your previous diving.
Yeah, fear for your life. This was definitely new.
How did you embrace, even deal with that?
Yeah, I was very well surrounded. Actually, my first 20-meter dives were in the pool here where we're diving together, and just trusting my training and trusting the coach. And then mentally, you really have to put yourself in the zone because you don't have a second chance. And that's something that was very different from the Olympic sport. When you're diving on the springboard, you're just kind of like chucking yourself for the first time and you're kind of seeing how it goes. There's no chucking yourself. You really have to commit to every step of the dive. Otherwise, you're going to be seriously injured. And so mentally, there's a lot of work also to be done, knowing that you're going to achieve those movements no matter what happens. Like there's no going back. So we have these small cues in our heads. It might be like 2 or 3 technical cues that will make the jump happen. And so we work on those cues at the lower heights where we have less risk. And then when we get up there, it's the exact same cues. So it could be like looking at a certain point. It could be like the way you like put your arms in a certain position that will help you do the trick that you're about to do.
People are watching, and as you're standing on the side of the cliff, everyone's like, ah, and then they watch you do it, and they're like, oh my God, that was so beautiful.
They're so nice.
And then forget sort of what was taking place there.
Yeah, and people ask me all the time, like, do I decide kind of in the air, like right on the platform, which jump I'm doing? And I'm like, no. I've decided like weeks before. I know exactly what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. And that's what makes it less risky, is because you have that whole preparation and that whole, succession of mini actions that are going to make the jump successful.
You get to this space and you have to realize instantly, like, oh, there's not a lot of people doing this.
Yeah.
It's a handful of humans that have decided that this makes sense. What kind of commonality in this new, very small culture that you find yourself in, community, what's the commonality that you share between these different types of people that you've discovered?
I would say generally, cliff divers are very determined. They know exactly the process that they need, and they don't back out from a hard process, so hard work. So extremely determined, extremely hardworking, and self-aware. People really are in touch with their emotions, because diving really forces you to dive within yourself and recognize what you're scared of. Are you scared of failure? Are you scared of being judged? We're on that platform almost naked, and there's a lot of like just your it's very intimate as a process. And there's a lot of your personal identity that is tied to your dives. And so I think cliff divers are generally very self-aware.
I watched a video the other day as I was preparing for this conversation with you, and it was just like a montage of dives gone wrong.
Oh yeah, classic.
And I was like, more than once, I yelled at the screen, like, ah! Like, yeah. That shit, it had me tripped out.
Yeah, it's really tough. We prepare as best we can, and we really try to mitigate risks, but it is a dangerous sport. The consequences are really real. And so we try to keep that respect for the consequences and the respect for the sport and the nature. I think going through that, but also seeing your friends go through some crashes, like you've just mentioned, is an extremely traumatizing experience. I've had a few friends that have had accidents, and honestly, I was in tears just watching them, just knowing what they had gone through and knowing the pain that they might feel, but also it's not really the shame, but knowing that you put so much of your identity into it, so much of your work and so many hours into something, and that then it just crushes you like that in half a second, that's just really tough. And that happens in any sport, but I think diving has this way of making it just like really traumatizing.
How do you see that and then go take a dive afterward?
Yeah, you just have to reset. I know that I'm ready. Like, I don't take a step on that platform if I don't know that I'm ready. If I'm not 100% convinced that I will do the dive and I will execute the movements. So you just have to reset, take a breather, and just, keep focusing on your technique and really focus on what is going to make the dive successful. What are the actions to make the dive successful? And not think about what could go wrong.
I remember you said that your parents necessarily didn't believe that a career existed for you in diving, but then you make the national team, and I imagine they've got some pride, and then you get into Harvard and they're like, our daughter is not only diving, she's diving at Harvard in America. And yes, but now you've made this decision to do something completely out there that also puts their baby girl, the oldest sister of 5 siblings, puts you deeply in harm's way. How was their response?
I mean, my parents have always been very supportive of my training and my sport, and like every step that I've taken in my career, they've always supported it as best they could, even if it was foreign to them. Generally towards risk, they know how hard I work. They know how diligent I am. They see all that process. So it's not like they just see the risky thing and they're like, oh, Morgane's jumping out of a cliff again. Here we go. It's like, no, Morgane's been going to the pool 6 times this week, and she's going to the gym, 4 times, and she's doing all of that. And she told us about all her worries and her preparation. And so I think they really see what goes on behind the scenes. And that in some ways is reassuring because you see what the athlete goes through. And so then you're like, of course she's ready because she knows what she's doing.
They had your back.
Exactly. So my family is generally like excited for me and looking forward to seeing what I do, I think. I hope. Or at least they're hiding their fear quite well. But sometimes my mom, she says she watches the competition. She can't watch live. She watches with a small delay because she knows that if something happens by the time she realizes, I will be taken care of already.
Right.
But I think that's just maternal instincts.
Of course.
I think it's normal to be worried for your child, regardless of what they do. Now, I don't make their life super easy with cliff diving, but...
What have been the injuries or challenges that you've dealt with physically since you started jumping and diving from these larger heights?
Thankfully, I've never had like a major crash. But then obviously, like in extreme sports, you're always like a little bit hurt, a little bit injured. I mean, you're hitting the water super fast. You're taking 10 Gs, which is the same amount of force as Formula One drivers.
It's 10 Gs.
Yeah, and fighter jet pilots. So
I went 8.5 in a stunt plane, and that was terrifying. 10, like I just felt that in my spine when it's 10 Gs.
It's 10 Gs. Yeah. So maximum force is 10 Gs, and so you will suffer. Your body will suffer. There was a few times where I've had like minor things, like I bit my tongue quite strongly and it was like bleeding everywhere and it's really painful. Like a few times I couldn't breathe for a few seconds, and that's just painful, but it's part of the sport.
And you probably just have some bruises that you're like, where did this come from? You're like, oh, I hit the water.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
What is it like when you're out there and some of those outside thoughts of the world and life creep in to your head in this place where you're trying to fight with fear and vertigo and like narrow into this thing that you have to do perfectly? Mm-hmm. Have you ever had to just be like, I don't have it today? Yeah,
actually quite recently, there was this day where I had set out to do my hardest dive, and it was just, I was getting distracted. I was feeling a little bit burnt out from like the 2 months of off-season training. I was feeling tired. I was just excited to have a couple of days of break. And I just kept pushing and I was like, no, I got it. I stepped on that platform. Something bothered me, like something so stupid, like a boat or something. And I was standing there and I started to shake and like literally tremble, like physically tremble. And I was like, I can't do it. And I like took a breather and I was like, I know I have it in me. I'm just going to reset. I stepped out again. My legs were shaking and I just stepped away from the platform and I was like screaming. I had a full on like panic attack on the platform. Like I just like crumbled in a ball and like started bawling because it just got to me, all of like the little things from my life, like the things I was working on, just the pressure, feeling tired, feeling like it was just too much. It was just too much for me to handle in that one moment. And I accepted it. I went back down. I cried a little bit, switched gears and did another dive after. And so these moments happen and you have to acknowledge, and I think it's really important to, dive deep within yourself and ask yourself the questions like, am I too tired? Like, is it still a moment where I can push, or is it a moment where I should dial back? And this balance is really tricky. We talk a lot about mental health in sports, but this balance between when you have to push and be rigorous and be diligent with your training versus when you have to take a step back is not an easy thing to do. And I struggle with it every day.
It would be very easy to think that you, women and men that get up there to do this, that it's once you step out onto that platform, you have no choice.
Yeah.
And that there's something to prove, and defeat might be walking away. But in that case, it sounds to me like you choosing to step back.
Yeah.
That was a win.
Yeah. It was a win also because it made me ask the right questions in myself and recognize the vulnerability that I had that day. So I think going back to the self-awareness, it's like, now I know where's my limit. Now I know how much I can push versus I can recognize those feelings next time it comes and maybe be better prepared and not have that full-on panic attack and not cry on the platform, but really before that prevent it a little bit better. And this is why you really have to keep asking yourself those questions of like, what do I feel? Why do I feel that? Is it physical? Is it mental? Is it the people around me? Why am I getting distracted? Why am I getting bothered by that random boat? And keeping those questions going is really important, at least in cliff diving. And generally, I think in performance sports.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about injury before. And as you're talking about these awarenesses, and there's no room for ego.
No. Yeah. No. That always ends poorly. That ends terrible. If you're doing something to prove to others, to prove that you're cool, to prove for social media, that ends poorly right away, for sure.
That space between leaving the platform or the cliff and hitting the water, it looks fast, but I imagine that for you at this level, you can probably look back at a dive and take me through all the things that were happening. What is that time and space like? Does it slow down for you?
Yeah, it slowed down. It feels like eternity. And actually, I have nightmares sometimes of this moment.
I was going to ask you if you had dive dreams.
Yeah, I have a lot of dive dreams, very much so. But the most common one, and it's a bad one, which is sad, but I'm in this moment, stranded in the air, and I make a mistake. And then I get lost, and I don't know where I am anymore. And I know the hit is coming. But so basically, the whole nightmare is me in the air in that moment where I lose it. It's horrible.
And are you stuck in that place?
Yeah, and then all of a sudden I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm out. It was just a dream.
What?
But yeah, so it goes by very slowly, and very fast at the same time. It's a strange feeling, but I think for many acrobatic sport it's the same, where a lot can happen, but also you don't really have time to think. Yeah, it's a special place.
Do you go back to sort of like memorable dives that you can still remember, like start to finish? And like, what are some of the ones that you're like, oh, I remember this one time?
Yeah, so there was that one dive in the Philippines where the location was pretty crazy. It was very hot. We had jellyfish in the water. We had to kayak to get to the platform. And I was doing a hard dive, and I don't know, I think at that dive I will remember it forever because it took so much out of me. And then when I was in the air, I just remember like every millisecond that went by and just spotting the water and just like doing the movements and doing a good dive. And after that, actually, I had so much adrenaline. I just started bawling because I was like, it was just such an experience, and it was just so much, and I had put so much work into it that the adrenaline tears were just like flowing, and I was like, I need a break, guys. I can't do it anymore. So it's really intense.
Yeah, I imagine that you must deal with crazy cortisol, adrenaline spikes. How does all that chemical reaction up and down, how does that affect you, and how do you counterbalance for it?
During my first year or two, after each event, I was getting super depressed because I realized like the adrenaline spikes were so intense during the events, and then I would come back home and I would just like struggle to get out of bed and struggle to just do daily life tasks. And it was strange because I was just like, Morgane, you just dove off cliffs and now you can't get groceries. Like, why is it so hard? And why is it so hard to like, just do life? And then I kind of learned about myself and learned how to deal with those adrenaline spikes. And it's really because you go from intense to nothing, and that can be mentally really hard to balance that. So I think taking the time to rest after a competition and allowing yourself to sleep more, to really take a few days where you're doing nothing is really crucial.
Just being chill.
Exactly. Being chill, so that then you can come back stronger. And also accepting that it's hard to recover from those spikes, but it's normal.
Right.
And
then building that into your life.
Exactly. And you can't expect to be 100% go all the time. And you can't expect to like jump off cliffs every day. There are going to be days where, you just take it slow, be a normal person for a little bit, and then you can step back up.
I started following you like a week ago, just to start to get a glimpse of who I was going to be hanging out with. And one of the things I really appreciated about you as a public figure is the way that you choose to deal with the negative space that is social media. I saw one of your posts in which you're throwing up sort of a montage of really horrific comments from clearly like lonely, unloved men that live in their mother's basement, but saying like really horrible and disgusting things to you. When you see those things, I don't care how tough you are, they are felt. What you do with them is up to you.
Yeah.
But I just thought it was a very interesting choice to be like, okay, I'm going to embrace this and put it back out there. I'm curious how you got to that place.
Yeah. I mean, I would say generally my community is extremely loving, and most of the comments are very respectful and positive. There is this small subsection of, they're so creative, it's kind of crazy. And they're so mean and so rude that it's almost like, to me, it says nothing about me, it says everything about them. And to me, to put it out there was a way to say like, look, this is happening in society every day. This isn't about me. I'm very happy. I'm surrounded by love. I'm doing, the sport that I love. I'm having all these opportunities. This is about these people that think it's okay to diminish just people, and more specifically women, because all the comments are generally geared towards women and their bodies, and that they think it's okay to just like insult them. And so it's just to trigger a reflection a little bit in society, like, why do we think that's okay, and why do we let those people be?
I thought it was very, very powerful and extremely brave, and that it would also be empowering to young women especially, to see someone like yourself who looks like, it's all smooth and easy, to be like, I'm dealing with this bullshit too.
Yeah, exactly. And it's everybody, it's at every age, it's every class, social class. The cyberbullying is really real, and especially like for young people. I mean, they say that to me. I'm 26 years old and I'm a happy, confident woman, but how does it land on a 16-year-old who's trying to know who she is and develop her identity? I think that could be really powerful.
Yeah. You are a role model and an inspiration. What's it like when you get those DMs or the fan that you meet at an event that is just like, hey, you inspired me to do this, or I might want to pursue diving?
First of all, I'm not Beyonce. Like, I think, like, the celebrity thing is nice, but, like...
You're modest.
No, it's great. But, you know, like, I've always followed my path and followed my little journey step by step, and that's what I encourage others to do. If it's diving, great. If it's something else, fantastic. If I can provide a little bit of entertainment through your phone in your daily life, that's fantastic as well. But I've never really tried to be an inspiration to anyone. It's more so like I'm sharing my journey, and if it reflects to your life and if there's lessons that you can draw from it, that's great.
But yeah, you know, no one goes into the thing thinking that they're going to be an inspiration.
Yeah.
But it happens, and it has to feel good when someone's like, hey, I overcame fear because of what I see you do.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's nice. It's nice to see the DMs that are nice and people sharing their stories, and it's really cute stories. Sometimes I just get this one comment the other day that was like, "You inspired me to do a flip. I'm a 38-year-old mom," and I was like, "Pop off, queen!"
Yes.
Like, flip at 38 years old, two daughters. I think she has. She was saying in her comments, like, that's amazing. Yeah. So that's cute.
You dive at 20 meters, right?
Yeah, correct.
The men dive at 27.
Yeah.
Is there a physical difference for women that makes those different heights?
Yes. So I think it's twofold. The first part is that there is an obvious physical difference between men and women, being the size of the hips. So we absorb impact in our lower back differently.
Right.
That's the first part. The second part is that I think, and this is my personal opinion, just the women's side of the sport have had less years to develop. And so the men were also diving on 20 meters 20 or 30 years ago. And now you see women going up to 24, going to 27. Like, you see women have the ability to dive on 27. But now it's more so, how do you make it entertaining for the viewers? And how do you have a whole competition format that has enough competitors that if one gets injured, you can replace that person? And how do you manage those risks? So is 27 the right height for men? That is a debate. Is 27 the right height for anyone? That is also up to debate. Is 20 the right height for women? That's also a debate. So I think there is still room for the sport to evolve and kind of find that perfect height that is great for viewers, great for athletes, you know, impressive, but not too risky where every event you're losing people because they're getting injured.
Why do you think that you have been able to, for the most part, dodge injury? What is it about your process, preparation, that you think has given you this relatively safe run?
I mean, never say never, knock on wood.
You got plenty around us.
Got plenty of wood. I've been extremely diligent with physical preparation in the gym and knowing exactly where my weaknesses are. I think a lot of people go to the gym and they work on strengths. So they work on things that they like doing because they're good at it, but you also have to work on what you're weak at. So the first time that I went cliff diving, I had a little bit of an adductor issue where my legs got split.
They
on
split
entry.
open.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was like, never again. I'm going to do adductors every day.
And the adductors muscles, they're interior.
Exactly. So that's just one example of things that I really try to be conscious about. When I feel something in my body, I will really try to work in the gym to like correct it, and with physiotherapists and stuff like that. Pain is a little bit normal. I had a tendonitis in my knee at some point that I fixed, and then like really worked around like the rotators, around like the quad muscles that were really important. So that was like a small thing. So just being like very self-aware of where my weaknesses are. And again, never say never, but so far so good.
You're 26 years old, so young. So young. Like you're
just like you.
Ma'am, you're too kind. How much do you feel like you have left? What do you want more of?
Yeah. I think there's two questions. It's how much longer could I and how much longer do I want to? Because I want to keep improving. I want to keep getting better. And I'm at a spot where now I really want to be among the best in the world. And that's a real privilege. I think I could probably get to a level where then I've reached my peak. And then do I want to do it much longer? That's another question that honestly, I don't have the answer. Step by step, try to live in the present. What
keeps you up at night that you haven't done yet within the sport that you're like, oof, I got to do this?
I'm working on that one dive that right now that I've been, actually I started working on it 2 years ago. So it's been a while. It's basically a back triple 2 twists. A little bit technical, but basically
back triple two twist. Just a little bit technical.
No, but this is like one of the hardest dives in the world right now for women. And I've been putting a lot of work into it, and it's not quite ready yet, which is fine. I accept it.
2 years.
Yeah. I mean, I started, then like pivoted, and then came back. So this dive, I'm really excited for the day where it will be ready. And I'm here for the process. But otherwise, like, I'm just really loving the sport. So there's not much that I want to change right now. Like, I love my life. I love the way I train. I love this location. I love the opportunities that I get with it. So I'm just a very content person. Yeah.
You only get to dive at 20 meters a handful of times a day, right? How many times are you allowed?
So it's not a hard boundary, but I can do, let's say, up to 5 reps for a few days in a row, and then I will need a few days off.
The risk goes up.
Yeah, it's more so that like the impact is so strong that your joints will start to get like really
you get
tired.
sore from the landing.
Oh yeah, you get sore. You get sore even if you do one.
Landings. The entry.
The entry, and like you get sore in spots that like you don't expect, like your neck.
Right.
Your neck from the forces, your inner abs, your knees. Everybody's different and everybody reacts differently. But also, we were talking about adrenaline. The adrenaline rush is so intense, your body will just crash if you do too many. So I think there's a balance between the physical boundaries and the mental boundaries.
Put on your crystal ball 10 years from now. Where is Morgan?
I don't even want to think that way because I never did and it always worked for me. I think if at 10 years old I had pictured myself at 20 years old somewhere, it would not have been as a diver as good as I was and at a school at Harvard like I was. So I think I would have had a tendency to put limits on myself if I was to project from now. Whereas like if I don't imagine myself anywhere, then there's no limits.
How about the sport? Where would you like to see the sport? Especially for women a decade from now.
You know, in the sport, equal pay only came in 2021, which is super late. I hope girls just take up more space and really like speak up for themselves. We have more and more girls pushing the boundaries of what is possible technically, difficulty-wise. So I just want them to thrive in that way and keep loving the sport. And I know it will keep evolving, especially with social media and the way just generally entertainment and sport is evolving in 2026. But I think cliff diving has a bright future.
I hear your story and I understand your name. Like, I feel like Morgane Herculano was meant.
Someone asked me if it was a staged meme. And I was like, oh, come on. It's not that strange.
But your journey has been Herculean. Like, you have done magnificent Hercules-ish type things, and now look at you.
Yeah, I think it's a confirmation bias thing. Like, if you think that you're strong, then you're stronger.
This has been a wonderful conversation. So you got to watch the show. You got to watch the Team Ignition show on teamignition.net or on our YouTube channel to see how the rest of this plays out.
You really do got to watch the show.